this, I'm going to make a video on what I've been up to here for a while. I haven't been putting videos up. I've been working on the house, doing some repairs on it, and I got some snow to clean up. This will make the third time I'll have used this Montgomery Ward snowblower since since I've owned it. I bought it in the estate sale. You can see we got about an inch, maybe two of snow. But the video what I've been doing on the house is 101 years old, though. This part with the flat roof here is an addition that was put on in, I think, 82 or 92. I don't remember. I pulled the building permits when I bought the house, see when the addition and the garage, I think the garage was built in 92. But anyway, the flat roof up in that top corner, back corner where it meets the gable roof, leaked, and it caused the drywall to fall in that room of the house, and the ceiling, and just a small hole about the size of your fist was what was in there. But it took me years to find someone to fix it. 2 years. I had contracted someone to fix it. They said they'd be out in 6 weeks. 6 weeks went by. I called them. They said, oh, it'll be a couple more weeks. A couple more weeks went by. I called them, and then I realized they're just not going to show up. And I'd used them for roofs on past houses, and there are no problem. They're pretty good. I think it was just because it was such a small job. The roof on the house itself is only 10 years old, and it's a 50-year roof, and it's in great shape. But the flat roof was never replaced when I bought the house, and the roof on the house and garage were brand new. But anyway, I contracted another roofing company, same thing. They said 6 to 8 weeks out. 2 months later, they no show, calling them. They never showed up. So the third one I called, same thing, you know. And then finally a friend of mine referred me to this guy that I called, and he came out and he gave me an estimate, and it was actually the lowest estimate of all of them. It was like, I think $1,800 he said to do the roof. And I was like, go ahead. And he's like, I'm 6 weeks out, you know. And I've always heard that. And then the 5th week he called and said he was bringing the materials out, and he was going to be starting the following Monday. This was like the middle of the week, and he said he should have it done that day. He showed up like he was supposed to. He stripped the roof. It turned out that he opened a can of worms. There was 4 flat roof layers on there. He thought there was 1 layer of roofing. There was 4. And then there was rotten wood underneath. Walking around on it, you would never know it. It felt really solid, but it was mostly around the edges where the roof was leaking that was, you know, that was rotten. So he replaced all the rotten wood, put this adhesive stuff on, then he put the flat roofing on, and that took care of the leak. I haven't had a leak since, and it mostly only leaked when it rained from the south. The flashing on the house, whoever put the siding on it didn't know what they were doing, and the flashing was installed incorrectly. I'm jiggling the camera around, I can see it there. But the flashing on the part that goes up there and there, they laid them over to where the water can run under them instead of over them. So it's like they put the top one on, and then they put the next one on when they should have started at the bottom, worked their way up. They worked from the top down, so water could run underneath the flashing. So I had all that fixed too, so that's, you know, done correctly too. But anyway, after he did the job, I felt kind of bad because all the estimates I had were in the $2,500 to $3,000 range, except for one that was $9,000. And obviously I didn't even contract him to do the roof, but he came in at $1,800 and he was done. And he ended up doing a lot more work, replacing rotten wood and, you know, stripping 4 roofs instead of 1. So I gave him $2,500, seeing that was the lowest of all the estimates I had in the past, and he was happy, I was happy. So I wanted to wait to fix the ceiling until we had some good downpours. Just a light rain or a regular rain, the roof wouldn't leak. And so we had a couple of really significant downpours and there was no leak, and mainly, like I say, when the wind was from the south. And we've had some from the south and no leaks because I left the roof open, the ceiling open, so I could see up in there to make sure. You know, I didn't want it to just seep a little and not enough to come in. I wanted to, you could see clearly when the ceiling was down where the water was coming in, and no water's coming in anymore. So I dropped the ceiling quite a ways around the hole, you know, just check for black mold or rot or other issues in there, and there was none. So I had to replace the drywall, so I re-drywalled the ceiling, mudded it, sanded it, mudded it, and sanded it. Did that a few times, and then painted it. And the rooms are carpeted, the front and back room, bedroom, and the rest of the house is laminate flooring, and it's bamboo, I believe. So anyway, the next step was the carpet that was here when I bought the house, and it was kind of in need of cleaning, and I just, you know, we both thought it'd just be good to replace the carpet. And so it's got laminate flooring, so I was kind of under a time crunch because the laminate flooring was going in the week after New Year's. And so I hurried up and pulled the Christmas tree and all the Christmas decorations down. I had, you know, like I said, to pull everything out of that one room to fix the ceiling and paint the room, and then I ended up painting the front room, that front bedroom. They're the bedrooms, so I painted the front bedroom, which everything had to come out of that room to paint that room. And so anyway, both rooms were painted and ready for flooring. So the flooring guys came in. I made sure everything was out of both rooms previous to the flooring put in. And then he came and put the flooring in, and one day they had to put 3/8 plywood down first to make sure the floors were all level with the rest of the floors in the house and stuff, and then they floored it, and it just came out absolutely amazing. So I didn't video it, like I say, because that just adds to doubles and triples the time of getting things done, and I was kind of in a rush on that. But I did take some still pictures with my iPhone, and I'll put those in the video here. But in the process of clearing out the bedrooms, I had the safe from my folks' house in one of the bedrooms, and I ended up going through it because it was just so jam-packed full of stuff. So I completely went through it, virtually emptied it out. There's almost nothing in it now. But one of the things I found was past info on cars, and I'm going to go through that. But first I want to snow blow, and then we'll get into doing that. So let me get this thing out. I want to get it gassed up. I haven't put gas in it. I burned a tank and a half. It's down a half a tank. So I burned a tank in it the first time I used it, half a tank last time I used it, and I'm going to fill it with gas, and we'll see how much we burn. And maybe I'll just throw a little bit of video in here. I did video last time of using it, so maybe I'll have a little clip or two. It's not going to be much, but a little clip or two of that time and a little clip or two of this time, just so you guys can see how well this thing really does work well in this, you know, not slushy snow. I was surprised at how well this machine does work. Definitely cold out. It's 4 with a wind chill of probably about 10 below, but we got maybe a half, quarter half, 3/4 inch of snow in spots, and in other spots it's about 8-10 inches. It's all drifted because it's been super windy out. snow blowing finished. A little single stage thing here. I like this machine. Doesn't work near as good as the two-stage errands, but I'll tell you what, it works pretty darn good, and does the job. It's a little quieter than the errands, the engine is, and it has no problem. That engine has plenty of power to move all the snow I need to move. I went off into the yard a little bit, and the governor just picked up speed, and the way it went. Getting back to the video at hand here, anyway, so the Bel Air, I repainted it, I said 1982, so I think it was 81 I think it was, I painted the front clip. I painted the car in sections, and that was the fall of 81. I painted the front clip and all the trunk lid fins and roof, and then in the spring of, I don't know, it was 81 I think I painted. No, I take that back. I spent a long time. But anyway, I painted the front clip in the fall of 81 and the doors and inside the jams. And then in 82 I painted the white, because one of the pictures I'm going to put here, you'll notice there's no white here because I'd painted the doors and the car was going in storage the next day. I was wiping the car down so I could put the covers on it so it'd be clean, covered up, where I put it in a barn for winter. And the doors had just been painted like a week or two previous, the front clip maybe a month previous, and then the following summer I painted the rear quarter panels and the white. So doors, hood, fenders were painted in 81, white, and rear quarter panels in 82. And kind of gives you the, because I painted the car in sections so I could paint all in the jams. I painted this gray around here. Let's see where jams probably need a little cleaning out. They're been a while. Should probably put a coat of wax in them. You can see they're all painted up pretty nicely. And, I mean, for what little effort it takes to paint the jams, why not? It's, beats looking at overspray, or some people change the color of their car and they don't paint the jams, and it's like, why? It doesn't take that much more effort to make it look, 10 steps better by painting in your jams. And so anyway, this is the spray gun that Dave's dad Jerry gave to me. He worked at General Motors Tech Center. I think he was a foreman, and something to do with the body work on the, I don't remember. I'd have to ask Dave exactly what he did. This is what it is. It says it's a Type MBC, and I'll tell you what, this is one of my favorite. I have HVLP guns. I have two other guns similar to this that are really nice and new condition, but you can see this gun is well used, beat up gun, but man does it spray nice. I love the way it sprays. I like the fact that you can turn the cup and it doesn't matter, so if I'm painting underneath the car, I can turn the cup like this and then I don't get paint dripping out on me while I'm spraying like that. And that's the way it's designed to turn like that. It's some of these guns, this is solid to the gun. There's no turning that. And that makes all the difference in the world when you're spraying paint. I was videoing in here with no lights on in the garage, so it's a wonder you could see what I was doing. And also, most of my videos are out here in the garage or out and about. I don't really like videoing inside my house. It's kind of my personal space I like to keep private, so I'm not taking the camera in to show you any of the rooms done, but you get the picture of what was being done in the moldings and the doors and the trim around the doors. Paint them this spring, and probably in a little different shade of white. The walls are just a pure daylight white. Just makes the rooms look bigger and just feels clean, and I don't know, the light makes the rooms bright, and I just like it. But anyway, getting back to the car, and like I say, I'll put photos, try and hold the camera a little still here. I'll try and put photos of, you know, things from the past and present and whatnot, but you can see I was spraying this with this gun in one of the photos. The air hose wasn't on it, I don't think, or maybe it was, I don't remember. But and then another one spraying back here. And if you look closely, you'll notice a tree like over in here. That was a box elder tree. There was another box elder tree probably about where those extension cords are. And then there was a row of red cedars across the back, maybe another foot or two beyond where the garage door is, where I had the car backed up to paint it. So I did the paint, like I say, the front end and the doors and jambs in the fall of '81, and the rear quarters and the white in the spring of '82, because the acrylic lacquer I used to paint it up when I bought it in '78, it all cracked. And some of the paint was still the original paint on the car. When I bought it, it was all original paint, except for this front, because the dealer had repainted it when it was wrecked, when it was new. And I've shown this in the past. I'll show it again. You can see where they straightened the inner fender out. You can see where they straightened the core support out if I take the battery out of the car. The frame was bent, and I had that straightened about, I don't know, 30 years ago. I had a friend put it on a frame rack, literally pull a rail up and out. So the dealer had never straightened the frame from that collision. This, half the bumper had been replaced, probably all the headlight assembly and this trim, the fender and the hood had been replaced. And I think it might have even maybe shifted the whole front end over a little bit, because I could never get that fender to line up correctly with the door. So I think probably what needs to be done is needs to go back on a frame rack and really make sure that it's straightened up. So maybe in the future that'll be something I do, maybe not. Maybe I can just unbolt the body mounts and, you know, move things. But it's been like that for the 46 years I've owned the car. And I just, you know, that's just the way it is. But that was from an accident that I think the dealer or wherever it was repaired just did kind of a shoddy job. I mean, you know, I don't think quality of work was any better back then than it is now when it comes to, maybe it's better now, I don't know. But anyway, the frame had obviously was bent, and that never straightened. So I straightened the frame. And because I couldn't align the wheel, this wheel, you couldn't get the camber was like that. I couldn't get the wheel up the way it should be. You know, I'm exaggerating it with my hand. And once the frame was pulled out, yeah, I could line it up. Things fit better. Made a big difference just from pulling the frame rail out a bit. But they did reuse the core support. And I don't know, couple places you can see where there's like a stress. But if I take the battery out, you can see down in there where they straighten more of the straightening of the inner fender and the core support. And then, like I say, they replaced the fender and the hood. I think they just straightened or reused this, or maybe they replaced it. And maybe that panel too. I have this panel and this panel NOS. I have an NOS rear quarter panel that I found in I was scouring through a 59 Impala sports sedan, and I opened up the trunk, and there's this thing in there. I'm like, what the heck is that? A piece of an old stove? It was a rear quarter panel for a 59 Chevy. They're kind of funny looking because they're joined under this molding here. There's actually a spot pinch weld along that this molding clips go on. And there's actually a seam right here. And then there's a seam here that they fill in, or over here, they fill in at the factory. They fill in all this, but they don't fill in that. You can clearly see that was never filled in, but that's just the way GM did things. But when I got it, it was hit pretty bad on this quarter panel. It was like they hit the garage or something. It was pretty much all from the trim up, all the body damage. From about here to here, it was all smashed in, almost the full length of the quarter panel. And it was rusted out here. I mean, all 59s rust out there because there's really, that's not going to show up, but there's no inner wheel well, so all the dirt and stuff, you know, this is the wheel well right here. So all the dirt and stuff would get packed up in here, and it was rusted out here on both sides, here on both sides. And the spare tire hole was rotted out. And these rear valances were all smashed and rotted out. And as you remember last year, I took the ones I made out of fiberglass off, which still had the metal under it straightened out, and put these on. Dave gave me this one for an Impala sports sedan he had that was smashed when it was being transported, and the transport company bought him a new one. It was new old stock. That's that one. The other one's a reproduction. The center one's the original. So you can go back and look at that video. You can see last year where I painted them and installed them. And the front valances, when I purchased the car, had big, huge holes in them. So I made them completely out of fiberglass. I used the originals as a kind of a mold, and then I had a mold release on it so I could release them. Kind of made them like a boat hull, layered them with fiberglass, and then sanded them, filled them, and painted them, put them on. They've been on there for probably 35 years. And I put a flex agent in the paint so they don't even stone chip. So that's kind of nice. Because they're fiberglass, if you didn't put a flex agent in, the flexing will cause the paint to eventually peel. Let me get back to what was going on here about painting. Getting distracted here by changing subjects and yapping on. But anyway, you can see where I was just kind of, that's how I go. You don't want to do that. You want to do that. Go right off to the end of where you're painting if you're masking there. Go a little bit further. And if you can spray with a spray can, you can spray with the spray gun. Just get a little used to it because you're laying out a lot more paint with the spray gun than you are a can, rattle can. So, you know, just find some old clunker or something to practice on, an old garden tractor, an old junk car, or something that you don't really care about, and get yourself some cheap paint and try it until you get to where you feel you'd be comfortable with painting the car, and just have at it. If I can do it, anyone else can do it. No reason why you guys couldn't do it too if I can do it. All right, let's take a look at these. Oh, and the fan, I'm sure I'll get asked about this too. It's got its original cord. It's an AC, it's a Westinghouse. I've had this fan for years. I bought it in an estate sale. It's a Westinghouse Whirlwind electric. Let's see, it says Westinghouse Electric Manufacturing Company, East Springfield Works, Springfield, Missouri, or Massachusetts, USA. 110 volts, 60 cycles to DC, style number 420550A. I think that's an A, but anyway, I think that motor has brushes in it. These are the brushes. Little thing in there that it rides on, like in a starter or generator. It's like a disc, and but it works. I mean, it feels a little stiff, but I think that's because of the brushes when you turn it. But it turns on. Let's see if it shows up the little sparks from the brushes in there. I guess not. guess it's running pretty clean, but it's moves a lot of air. Dandy little fan. Got a little, this base is cast iron. Got a little switch there. Just a 1-speed. Little oiler right there and a little oiler right there, but dandy little fan. That was when it was up in one of the bedroom closets, and I couldn't even turn the blade on it. It was just stuck. So I got it down and oiled it up and got it working, and now I got to put it back away. But here, I'm throwing the camera everywhere but where I got to. Anyway, let's get these out and have a look. These are vintage sales invoices and stuff and past cars, and I don't think it matters if I show you personal information, because most of the people that are on these paperworks are deceased and no one lives at those addresses, and a lot of those bank accounts have been closed. So there's really no value in anything if there is personal information. So I'm just going to show you everything here. So this was when Jerome Duncan Ford was still on Van Dyke in Utica, Michigan, before it moved to Sterling Heights. I can't read the, I was trying to see if I could read the address there. It says 48, looks like 4800 something. I can't, I have her 45. I can't really tell what that says up there. It was on Van Dyke in Utica, Michigan. And Jerome Duncan Ford, I worked there in the 80s. It's one of the largest Ford dealers in the state of Michigan, and it's, I think, Suburban Ford now. Dick Duncan was into cars. It was Jerome and Duncan. They were two different people that owned the dealer, and then Dick bought out Jerome but kept the name on there. But he had a collection of Model Ts and Model As, and he knew I was good with old cars, so whenever he'd get Model Ts on it, he got a truck and 2 cars on trade-in on a new car, and he had them put in my work bays and wanted me to get them going. So that was a fun, you know, to get them going and go out cruising around the dealership in a Model T, a Model A, and whatever. But anyway, this is the paperwork for that. This is dated June 5th, 1968. And it shows the car sold as a 1966 Ford Country Sedan 6-passenger, and that shows the VIN as 6E72C, then 303676. And that car sitting in the backyard of someone's house in Romeo, they had a 289 engine in it, and they were going to use it in a Mustang. And I don't think they ever pulled the engine or did anything with it. It's just still sitting there. The trade-in was a 1959 Chevy station wagon, and the VIN was D59F, then 201401. And old lady bought that car while we were there getting the trading the wagon in, and the Chevy wagon in for the Ford wagon. Some old lady was there and wanted to buy the car right then and there because of how clean and nice it was. So the price of the 66 Ford in 1968 was $1,583.65, and that includes federal tax, freight, and accessories. It had an A1 warranty. The car would have had 20,500 miles on it, I think, at the time. And so you can kind of see all the stuff here. And I was just looking to see what they gave them on trade-in. Let's see, it looks like they gave them $150 for the Parkwood. Boy, would I like to pay $150 for that now. Delivery date, 6/5/68. Al Mayo was the salesman. So anyway, there's the paperwork from when he traded the 59 Chevy station wagon in for the 66 Ford station wagon. And then he traded the 66 Ford in for a brand new 72 Country Squire. And the funny thing was, they had a brand new, my folks had a 72 Ford Maverick that they just purchased. This one right here. And the dealer couldn't get their hands on that car quick enough. They wanted it immediately before the 72 Ford was delivered, so they had to drive the 66 until 72 was delivered. And here's the vehicle numbers of the trade-in, which would be the Maverick, the 72 Maverick that had I think a 200 inline 6 in it, and the VIN for the 66 Ford Country Sedan, and the VIN for the 72 Ford Country Sedan, and the options on the 72 Ford Country Sedan, or Country Squire, I should say. The 72 is a Country Squire. I'll put photos of every car I can find photos of. I'll add photos in here why I'm yapping over this video. So the 72 Country Squire was $4,235 new. The sales tax was $177, so it came to $4,502. They gave them $2,250 trade-in. It looks like they gave them $1,875 for the 72 Maverick and $377 for the Country Sedan. I think the Country Sedan had like 98 or 99,000 miles on it when he traded in, as the Parkwood had almost 100,000 miles on it too. So that was high mileage considered for that era car. So anyway, there we go. And my mom and dad were on the title to that car. They bought it the 8th day of September in 1972. And that car was kept until my dad bought a Suburban to replace it, because he bought this big Four Winds boat, 245 Vista, with twin engines and everything. And the Country Squire would tow it and pull it out of boat ramps, but it was a lot of work on that. It really gave that car a workout. It was overloaded. So he bought a Suburban from a neighbor, a GMC Suburban, that just lived up the street, and they used it to pull a big travel trailer through the Rocky Mountains. It had one of those, it was a 4x4 with a creeper gear 4-speed, a 354 barrel creeper gear 4-speed, and 50-to-1 4x4 reduction. That Suburban would pull that boat out of the water at idle, and you put it in 4-wheel drive low, and you could just slide your foot off the side of the clutch and let it pop out, and it would pull that boat out of the water idling. That thing was amazing, the power that Suburban had. So that was the Suburban. This was the Country Squire. This is the Country Squire, and I think, I'm not really sure what this was for. Excuse me again, but it was paperwork for the, and that car is still around. Dave Robertson, my friend Dave that I just talked about earlier in the video, we're up in the, there was a big barn on the 44 acres behind us, and between the two haylofts, somebody had nailed some chain link fencing that you could run across from the hayloft to hayloft. And they were quite, it was quite high, the second hayloft. And we're running, playing in the barn and running between haylofts on this chain link fence like a bridge. And Dave fell off of it and cut his arm open. And he's shown that scar in one of the previous videos, maybe when we went to go look at the Country Squire. So he remembered, he went home and his mom started screaming and almost passed out when she saw it. It was a pretty opened up cut. So she had called my dad, and my dad went down there, and my dad put Dave in the Country Squire and took him to the hospital to get his arm stitched up. So, and he's gone on family vacations with us. You know, we use that car to tow a travel trailer, and we put a canoe or a boat on the luggage rack, on the roof rack. And so, you know, he had a lot of memories with that car too. Excuse me. So anyway, that was the paperwork on those cars and the Suburban. And this was, my dad had bought a 72 Honda motorcycle from one of his co-workers, Gary Barch. and it looks like 10/22/70. The writing's kind of crummy here. 75. And he sold it to one of his friends 4 or 5 years later, who still owns it. So my dad paid $225 for this 1972 Honda motorcycle. There's the VIN. It was a CL350. My brother started driving, I don't know, I started in 77, so probably 75. And my folks didn't want my brother tearing up the country squire. You know, I mean, you know, he was 16 years old. We all know what we drove like when we were 16, right? Sorry, Kevin, if I make you feel bad. But anyway, they bought a 73 Capri two-door, and there's the VIN of it. It's probably in the salvage yard. They purchased it on 10/20/75. And where they purchased it from, I actually looked at a house on that street as buying for a rental. And I didn't buy it, but I had to go by and see if how far it is from that house I looked at. And that's what they paid for the 73 Capri. And when they were done with it, they replaced it with a 76 Mustang Ghia with a 302 in it. My mom loved that car. It would just go like hell. It would spin you just touch the accelerator and it would spin the tires. My brother would go running out of the house yelling at my mom, "Quit spinning those tires," because my mom always gave my brother heck for he had a Dart or Valiant or something that he had built all up, and it had a 4-speed, and you know, he drag raced it and stuff. And my mom always gave him the business, so I guess it was Kevin just giving the business back to my mom. But that was the Capri, which was pretty rotted out. It was never rust proofed, and that car just rotted out like there's no tomorrow. It had a 2-liter 4-cylinder that really was a screaming engine. It ran good. It was a little German built engine, really good little engine. And then my first motorcycle was a 72 Suzuki, and it was a TS90, and there's the VIN to that. And Cal Winters was a friend of mine. Doug Winters owned Nightingales, where I used to take my cars, and I think I showed the Galaxy getting a front end alignment there. So that was Cal's son. Cal died about, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. I think he was 95 or 90. He was in his mid to upper 90s. And he still lived in his house and still drove. He had a 50 Chevy that he had for like 50 or 60 years. He had a 39 Pontiac that was identical to the one that he courted his wife in, other than it was a straight 8 instead of a straight 6. And they were from West Virginia, the Winters were originally. Cal and his wife had 13 kids, and I was good friends with a couple of them. And so that was kind of interesting. But I did not get the 72 Suzuki from Cal. I actually bought it from a friend of mine in high school, and they just bought it and never transferred the title. Their friend of mine, Tom Bobstein, rode that motorcycle, still titled the Winters. And then when I bought the motorcycle from the Bobsteins, they still had the title with the Winters on it. So I had to go to Cal to get him to sign everything so we could transfer the title, because it'd been a year or two, and Secretary of State, you know, wanted some backup, so he had to get some other info from him. But that was interesting with that. And then this was I used to buy cars and flip them, and this was one of them. And I'll show a picture of this car. All 4 corners were smashed, and it had I think this one had a blown transaxle. It was a 4-speed manual in it. And my brother hooked me up with a 4-speed manual, and I bumped out all the body and repainted the whole car. And so that was 1982, so you'll see me here in 1982 also. So anyway, there we go. Just kind of no, I take that back. The Charger was an 82. The sale date was 87. So there we go. I just thought maybe some of you would be interested in some of this paperwork. I do have a lot more paperwork like this, but it's in files and just a regular filing cabinet of all the cars I've done in the past. It has the sales receipt from when I purchased it. I don't know why I got this cough, but anyway, sorry, excuse me. And it has the paperwork from what I spent on the car, and then the paperwork from selling the car, but I'm not going to go through all that. It's a big folder full of files, and it takes a whole drawer in the filing cabinet. Each file's about so thick of paperwork, but this was just some paperwork I found in Dad's safe when I was going through it. It's no value to keep in the safe, though I might put it back in just because it's so interesting. But I just thought some of you guys might just be interested in seeing some of this stuff, from the past invoices and bills and what things went for. I mean, they're $150 trade-in and $68 on a solid 59 Chevy station wagon with 100,000 miles. That was probably the going rate. That was probably good, fair price for that car at the time. I mean, look what he paid for a 2-year-old Ford station wagon. I mean, kind of, and I paid $75 for that in 1978. So you kind of get the, these cars, just nobody wanted them. Who wanted, back in the 60s and 70s, especially the late 60s, the fins weren't in anymore. People didn't want these cars with fins, and, they wanted the modern styling. They figured this was old and stodgy, and now fins are in now. I'll end the video here. I hope you found that interesting, and hope it didn't bore all of you too much. But anyway, if this is the end of the video, if you liked it, hit the thumbs up icon. That helps me out. If you like my channel, that 348 engine icon that pops up that powers this car, hit that and I'll help you subscribe. And thank you for taking the time to watch my video.